What's going on, hikers? In today's video, we're going to talk about hiking and backpacking with dogs. Because guess who got to go backpacking with me? Hey, baby. Hey. Golden Graham? Oh, bye, Petey. Okay, thank you. So backpacking with dogs, I'm going to make it my mission during this video to give you some lessons, advice that I have, any mistakes that I have made with backpacking with my dogs. Now, I'm absolutely not an expert when it comes to this, and I want to give you some context just to show you exactly where I'm coming from. So first off, typically when I go backpacking, I either go with just some friends, myself, or with my wife. Now, if my wife doesn't go, she's watching the dogs here. If she does go, typically, we have somebody to dog sit for us. Now, at the time of filming this video, we have this pandemic going on, and we don't want anybody house sitting or dog sitting, and we don't want to board the dogs. In fact, that's actually closed. So we're like, let's take the dogs with us then. So my idea was, let's first start off by getting the dogs used to riding in the car, because we have to drive to where we're backpacking. And then once we got that, we're like, well, we've already been walking the dogs. Let's start, kind of strengthening them and getting them used to out walking. That way, if we actually take them on the trail, they won't have such a hard time. They'll physically be able to do it. So we started going around the neighborhood multiple times per week and walking them 1 mile to 2 miles. Then we actually got to the point where we're like, okay, let's transition them to walking in the woods. So we took them on a 1 mile hiking loop on a day hike. Didn't take long, it was fun, and they loved it. And then after that, we're like, let's take it a step further. So we took them on a 3 mile total, 1.5 out, 1.5 back, with an hour for lunch once we got to the end of the out and back. Then we turn around and, of course, walk back to the car and we're ready to go home. And then after all that, we're like, okay, let's up it one more time and actually take them on a backpacking trip. So this was the last and final step in our plan to go from, hey, our dogs are running around in the backyard, to our dogs are spending a night with us in the woods. At some point in there, we did sneak in like a car camping trip where they got to spend a night in the tent with us, but now we're ready to actually take them backpacking. So what we did was we said, let's do 10 miles total. 5 miles the first day, 5 miles the second day. And Daniel Boone National Forest is like literally 20 minutes from my house. So I just picked out a small section of the Sheltowee Trace, and that's where we took them to. And we actually hiked 5 miles in, we camped, and then we hiked 5 miles out, and we were, home in time to eat lunch. And the dogs did perfect, superb, although we did learn quite a bit, my wife and I, by taking the dogs out with us. So first lesson, just like the trail bonds people, it will bond you with your animal. And I come back and I had a whole different appreciation for spending time with my dogs. It's awesome. It actually creates an even more strengthened relationship, if you will, with the pet. Second thing, and I knew this going in just due to research and common sense, if you're in an area that it says leash your dogs, you need to leash your dogs. And so we did that. We actually always keep our dogs on a leash unless we're at home, or if they're in fenced in backyard or like a doggy play date or something, or at the dog park in an actual spot where you're allowed to be off leash. I have seen, I've been on trail and people's dogs run up, especially while you're eating and that kind of thing. I know this is a controversial topic, but if the rules say leash your dog, I would heavily suggest leash your dog. And like I said, we did the entire time. And I think maybe the reason why this is so controversial is you could put your dog or somebody else's dog in harm's way if one or the other get out of control of the owner. You could also hurt somebody else if your dog attacks them, or their dog could hurt you if it attacks you. So we want to completely avoid that situation. Now this kind of goes along with the whole leashing thing. Before we fenced in our yard at home, we actually have one of those lines, and you put one in on a tree, one in on another tree, and you can hook your dogs and they can run back and forth, but still kind of leashed. Now, what we did with ours is we always use harnesses. We never have really used collars with our dogs. And I took some 550 paracord, like 50 feet of it, and I made a little, I guess, a V with 2 trees, and I hooked each dog's leash on that V when we got to camp, and then they could run back and forth. Now, I will tell you, having 2 people makes things a lot easier. So if it's at all possible for you, if you're gonna take your dog backpacking, then it's really cool having 2 people, because when you're trying to do something and you have to hold on to your dog's leash, you don't have to go through the trouble of tying it up to a tree or anything like that. The other person can hold it, obviously. I will tell you, if you do have to hook it up to a tree or something, you can actually take the handle of the leash and run the hook through it around a tree, and voila, there you go, you got your other person holding the dog. Let's talk about food and water on the trail. Now, one of our dogs, Golden Graham, normally doesn't eat a whole lot when he's at home. He'll like have food left over for the next day. The other one, Petey, he's kind of a fatty and he will eat whatever. He's gonna eat all of his food. Now on trail, both dogs are ready to just scarf the food down. And I assume it's just because like we're out there burning all those calories, they are too, and so they are starving. I would bring whatever dog food you have at home, I would bring that with you, even though that's heavier, because my logic is you're already putting stress on your dog. You're getting them out of their routine, something new to them, probably if you're watching this video, and you want to keep as much normalcy as possible, just like us in the woods, you know? So bring whatever dog food that you would normally bring, because if not, they may get diarrhea, vomiting, that kind of thing on trail. And you may want to bring some supplemental things. Like we brought extra treats to reward our dogs when they're doing exactly what we want them to do, as well as just give them some extra nutrition. You may want to also check out some meats, possibly shredded chicken. If your dog loves chicken, you know, you can get those vacuum sealed ones at Walmart or Kroger, and those don't spoil. So you can just tear that open and you could eat some and give some to your dog too. When it comes to water on the trail, be prepared to filter a lot of water. Because I don't know about you, but I drink a lot of water when I'm out on the trail. And I even drop some electrolytes in there to help keep me from cramping. Now, if your dog's off leash, it's probably walking twice as far as you. It needs a lot of water. And sometimes there's nothing that you can do to prevent your dog from having a couple sips while it's walking, but really you want to filter water for your dog too, because it's also susceptible to pathogens like Giardia and that kind of thing, and it can actually get your dog sick just like it can get you sick drinking unfiltered water. Now, like I said, sometimes your dog's going to be splashing around playing in the water and it's going to drink some, and I don't know anything else to do about that, but try to filter water for your dog too. One thing that you don't want to forget for your animal while it's out in the woods is something for it to eat and drink out of. So we just took some Tupperware, and it takes up a little room in the pack, but when you stack them together, problem solved. The last thing we want to happen to our furry friends is to put them in danger. So a tip for you would be make sure you're paying close attention to the weather, especially if it's going to be colder weather. Now, I think the low whenever I took ours was like 60 degrees, 58 degrees, somewhere around in there. But I know when you get in some of those bottoms, it can get a little cooler. So my idea was the same like bubble silver insulation that you could buy and make a pot cozy out of, which I've made one of those videos. You can watch it above if you want to see what I'm talking about. Though that silver insulation was something for my dogs to lie on top of inside the tent. So what I did was I put down either some Tyvek or some like drop cloth or polycro or something inside of my tent to keep the dogs from ripping it. Then I put our sleeping pads in there, and I put that silver bubble insulation for the dogs to have a little bit of R value so they're not lying directly on that cold ground. And then you may want to keep in mind, if it's going to be really cold, you're going to have to cover your dog up with something. I know the best backpacker, Jason, he actually, he makes a lot of gear, okay? So, but he made like this little sleeping bag for his dog. Now, we're never gonna take ours in super inclement weather, but you know, even laying your puffy jacket down on top of your dog may help them stay warmer at night. I have a couple more things that I'm about to mention, but before I do, I want you to comment and tell me what are some other tips and advice that you have on taking your dogs into the backcountry, because you may be more experienced than I am. What have I missed? Okay, a couple more things. First off, if your dog is not super good at walking on a leash, or AKA leading them, be prepared for your knees to hurt a little bit. Even though we're done like 5 miles and then 5 miles the next day, my right knee was pretty sore because going downhill, my dog is just like, I got a head of steam. I'm gonna go down there and I gotta explore. I gotta see, there's a lot of different scents. I gotta check it out. And I was like, oh, hold on, Golden Graham, you're pulling me. So we're still working on helping our dogs be better at leading, or leading them, I guess I should say. And it can be a real knee buster. And then lastly, let's talk for a second about leave no trace. Now, leave no trace, people get super fired up and passionate about this, and the same can hold true for your dogs, especially dogs pooping. Now, sometimes not a whole lot you can do when a dog's getting ready to pee, but especially pooping. You want them, just like you, to be 200 feet away from a water source and 200 feet away from the trail. Now, if you can't, you want to try and help that, right? But sometimes the dog's just like, I gotta go, and then he's starting to poop. You do not, please don't leave that on the trail. That's gross. If you're just doing a day hike, then I would suggest carrying those little plastic bags and pick up the dog poop. And if your dog is wearing like a little backpack, which that's a whole different video, I'm not even addressing that. You can have the dog to carry it, or you can carry it. Don't leave it on the side of the trail and then get it on your way back out. That's bad trail etiquette. But if it's just a day hike, pick up the poop, make sure it's carried out. If you're backpacking, that's not very practical. So you want to do the same thing that you would do. You would dig a hole, a cat hole, 6 inches deep, and bury that 8 inches deep, whatever, and bury that dog poop away from the water source. If your dog is peeing near a water source, be prepared to move along so you're not going to be drinking that urine, and hopefully nobody else is either. I'll leave you with this. Be patient. The dogs are out there. They're experiencing something new. You're experiencing bringing them out. It's exciting. They're excited. They're smelling. Oh my gosh, there's all these other stimulants and there's all these senses, and it's making me go crazy. I got to smell this. And just be patient, right? Try not to get frustrated. Your dog's tugging you. Oh, I got to pee on that bush over there. Just be patient. Folks, if you've enjoyed the video, give me one of these. Subscribe to the channel. It's all about backpacking, and kick the notification bell for the latest notifications. We'll see you in the next video. Come here, Petey. Here, Petey. Oh, come here, Petey. Come here, Golden Graham. Oh, you want to be in the video, don't you? You want to give me kisses? No, you don't want to give me kisses. Oh, thank you.